joining us. I'm Morgan Romero. We begin with a deteriorating situation in Afghanistan as the Taliban appears to be in control of the country.
We've known all along that the Taliban was at its strongest position in terms of its strength since 2001. When we came to office, that was the fact. And we said all along, including back then, that there was a real chance that the Taliban would make significant gains throughout Afghanistan.
Here's what we know so far. Yesterday, the Taliban took over every major city in Afghanistan except for Kabul. Around 11:30 p.m. our time, the militants had surrounded the city. U.S. helicopters could be seen flying in and out of the embassy for hours, and a plume of smoke rose from the grounds as the embassy destroyed documents and other sensitive materials. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled the country, and Taliban fighters entered the presidential palace. Former President Hamid Karzai says a council is being formed to prevent chaos and try to transfer power peacefully. The U.S. is sending even more troops back into the area to protect Americans and our allies. It's been a really tough day for veterans who served in Afghanistan, but the Secretary of State says they should take pride in all the U.S. accomplished over the past 2 decades.
First thing I say to them is, God bless you. God bless you for your service. God bless you for your sacrifice, for everything you've done for this country and for other people around the world. And the other thing I say to them is, you succeeded in accomplishing the mission that was set out for you way back on 9/11, after 9/11.
This is, of course, a very fluid situation. We're going to continue to bring you updates on air and online. Oregon Congressman Earl Blumenauer helped create the Iraqi and Afghan immigrant visa programs for people who help U.S. forces. He says the U.S. must act now to evacuate Afghan allies who put their lives on the line for our country. He goes on to say, now is the time to save lives. Now to the war being fought here at home on our soil against the coronavirus. The FDA approved 3rd shots for people with vulnerable immune systems. So far, those vaccinations are not happening in Oregon. Tim Gordon tells us why.
One thing we don't have is a shortage of vaccine, so you'd think it would be no problem to get 3rd shots to those who qualify. People like Cheryl Schock of Oregon City.
My first diagnosis of the chronic form was in 2019.
Cheryl has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. She takes an immunotherapy drug that also hurts COVID vaccine response. A 3rd shot is a chance for at least a little protection, but visits to Oregon pharmacies have not paid off.
It's frustrating. I mean, I get it. It's the weekend. And as we've seen in this pandemic, there's so much unfolding.
The federal recommendation came out Thursday, but as of Sunday, the Oregon Health Authority had not updated its approved guidance to include 3rd shots for the immune compromised. So providers are not giving them for the most part.
Woohoo! Team Moderna. 3rd shot was the charm, as well as it took me 3 places to go.
Jennifer Taft is an exception to the rule. She posted on Twitter after she got a 3rd dose at a Portland area Walgreens. But everyone else we've talked to has been turned down. Meanwhile, in Washington, 3rd shots are on. Saturday, the state's Department of Health wrote, healthcare providers can now offer 3rd doses of Pfizer and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines to certain immunocompromised individuals. Again, Oregon has made no such statement.
It's frustrating. Maybe it's partly because they didn't know what the ruling would actually be when it came down. But yeah, it just says to me, we're not prepared for stuff.
On Sunday, OHA was not prepared to say when approved guidance would be released so that some of the most at risk can get a 3rd shot. In the meantime, one Oregon pharmacist I spoke with recommended crossing the border to get the vaccine. And that's exactly what Cheryl Schock ended up doing this afternoon. She even sent me a nice picture with her smile and a fresh Band-Aid on her arm. She came up to Clark County to get her 3rd dose. Tim Gordon, KGW News.
Good for her. With Pfizer and Moderna vaccines approved for a 3rd dose, many wonder if Johnson & Johnson will be approved for a 2nd. Area and Detail with our National Verify team looked into it.
According to data from the CDC, immunocompromised people account for an estimated 2.7% of adults in the United States. But CDC data shows that group makes up about 44% of hospitalized COVID breakthrough cases. Dr. Kelly Jibo, a professor of medicine at Johns Hopkins University, says that additional shot is meant to give this at-risk group better protection. But what about immunocompromised people who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Are they eligible for the additional dose? Let's verify. Our sources are the CDC, Dr. Kelly Jibo, and Dr. William Schaffner, an infectious diseases doctor at Vanderbilt University.
There are some immunocompromised people that were vaccinated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That will be dealt with down the road. They're not included currently because we don't have those data yet.
According to the CDC, studies are underway to determine vaccine efficacy in immunocompromised patients who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. That data will determine how soon after their last shot this community needs an additional dose in order to increase their immune response. Under the CDC's new guidance, immunocompromised Moderna and Pfizer recipients need to wait at least 1 month after their second dose. Dr. Schaffner says most of these patients are already eligible for their third dose.
Most people have received the vaccine many months ago, so most of those immunocompromised people would be ready to receive that third dose very quickly.
Dr. Schaffner says it's likely Johnson & Johnson recipients won't have to wait long.
It's not there yet, but hang tight.
So we can verify this as false. People who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine are not eligible for the additional dose, but they soon may be. With your Verify, I'm Ariane Till. Want something verified? Email us or send us a text. For more stories like this and to sign up for our newsletter, go to verifythis.com.
Okay, you guys have noticed the weather's improving and the smoke is finally clearing out. We had to deal with that for a few days. Let's bring in meteorologist Joe Rainieri for a look at the forecast. Joe, is it going to stay this way?
It's going to stay nice. It's not going to be as hot. We're looking at temperatures in the low to mid 90s, but it feels good to be able to spend some time outside this weekend, right? Because like we've been telling you, it's been so nasty out there because of our air quality and all that smoke and haze. We're still under the air quality warning throughout much of the state, but things will slowly improve over the next couple of days. Here's a live look from a Rose City camera. 94 degrees at this hour. Winds are pretty light. This is going to be our last warm day for a while. In fact, after today, our heat wave that lasted nearly a week is basically over. We're going to be seeing much cooler conditions heading into the work week and starting to warm up a little bit by Wednesday. I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but let's focus on the smoke and haze. It's basically out along the Oregon coast, or I should say out of the Oregon coast and throughout the valley. As we put this into motion, if you're seeing thick smoke right now, maybe throughout parts of the gorge and the eastern Oregon, it'll slowly improve over the next couple of days. Of course, we'll have more of a westerly flow that's going to push all that smoke away from us finally. Throughout the central Oregon area, you're going to be dealing with the smoke and haze a good part of tomorrow morning and into the afternoon, but it lightens up right around lunchtime, and then later part of the day, most of the smoke just kind of lingers over into eastern Oregon, and that's where you're going to be seeing some issues with the air quality as well as some hot conditions over the next few days. As we look at the air quality, it's slowly improving. We're still anywhere from good to moderate, but still dealing with some issues out in the Columbia River Gorge. Pretty unhealthy. Of course, there's a lot of smoke and haze out there, and things didn't really help matters considering how warm it's been over the last couple of days. It just kind of kept the poor air quality down practically at the surface. As we look at the watches and warnings, again, the air quality warning is in effect until tomorrow afternoon, and there's that fire warning in effect through parts of the Oregon Cascade, so be aware of that. And then speaking of the mountains, this time last night you couldn't even make out the Mount Hood area. Now you can, so you kind of see some conditions are really improving into the higher elevations as well. And Morgan, I'll talk more about the cool down we'll be seeing. Along with that cool down, I'm tracking a chance for some showers too.
All right, love seeing that blue sky in that photo. Thanks, Joe. On the wildfire front, Joe just talked about fires. The Forest Service is actually celebrating today as 3 large wildfires in Oregon are now 100% contained. In a tweet, they said that includes the Bootleg Fire, which burned more than 413,000 acres over nearly 40 days. The Forest Service thanked the hundreds of firefighters for all their hard work.